Every drill rapper has an op, and in this war, there's no such thing as peace. Bloodhound Lil Jeff hunted down his enemies outside their high school, then went straight to the studio to rap about it. Glock 9 and Hot Boy had the talent to escape, but instead, they flooded Orlando with so much gunfire that the feds had no choice but to take them all down in a massive RICO case. NBA Youngboy and G-Money took their beef from Baton Rouge to the industry, but G-Money never got to see the fame. He was gunned down outside the studio before he could take off. In Jacksonville, Youngin Ace and Julio Fulio turned the city into a war zone, dropping diss tracks while their crews drop bodies. For some, the streets catch up before the feds do. Drill rap isn't just music. One song can start a war, and one diss can get you killed. Stay with me as we break down the deadliest rivalries in drill rappers and their ops. Bloodhound Lil Jeff and Trap City Rob's beef wasn't just a rap rivalry, it was a war playing out in real time. Both rappers were deeply tied to their respective hoods, and what started as street politics quickly escalated into a deadly feud that played out through diss tracks, shootouts, and betrayals. Lil Jeff was a rising name out of Bloodhound, known for their relentless approach to street beef. The group had built a reputation for publicly taunting their enemies through social media and music, a tactic that often led to real-world violence. Jeff, in particular, had a way of making his enemies famous, not just by name-dropping them in his tracks, but by sending them viral after making an example of them. On the other side was Trap City Rob, a respected member of Trap City, one of the few sets in Chicago bold enough to openly go to war with the Bloodhounds. Rob wasn't just another name in the mix. He was one of the most active members in the war against Lil Jeff's camp. The hostility between these two sets wasn't just about gang territory, it was personal. The animosity between Jeff and Rob wasn't built overnight. It started years back when Bloodhounds and Trap City members had a falling out over money and street business. Lil Jeff and his crew allegedly backdoored one of Rob's close affiliates, taking jewelry and money in a setup that would set off a chain of retaliation.
He snaked the to that. Love everybody. He don't give a fuck. You see this chain? This shit ain't straight, fuck. This ain't my chain. This bro's chain. He let me see this bitch. This shit look good though. This shit free. This shit like, if this my chain, this bro chain. If this his chain, that's his chain. We don't give no fuck about this shit. So you niggas just see this type of shit, baby, and they're across the nigga that don't give a fuck about letting them see this shit. A nigga will cross you out for diamonds. Man, this blood on these diamonds, gang.
What? Wear some jewelry?
Yeah, motherfuckers should wear some shit. A nigga.
Sticky fingers, motherfuckers was genuine enough to let them wear the chain, go do what they gonna do. Motherfuckers got in the air about stealing the chain. None was never taken. Motherfuckers stole it.
With Jeff taking it further by mocking the hit on Trap City members in his songs. But Rob wasn't one to let disrespect slide. Instead of going straight to music, he let the streets do the talking first. It wasn't long before shots were fired back and forth. One of the first major incidents was when Jeff's car was allegedly sprayed up in a drive-by, an attack that many believed was orchestrated by Rob's camp. Jeff, however, survived, and instead of laying low, he went straight to Instagram to mock the situation, showing off new jewelry and money while laughing at his enemies. Trap City Rob and his crew took the losses personally, and the war only escalated from there. From that point on, both sides were on full alert. Every move was calculated. Every public appearance was risky. Even though Jeff continued to taunt Rob and his crew, the pressure was mounting. Not long after, Lil Jeff met the same fate as his enemies. On a quiet afternoon, Lil Jeff T Slick and Bloodhound Q50 decided to go on a drill to Trap City to gun down Trap City members. Lil Jeff runs out the car once he spots an op. His op runs into the house, and Trap City Rob comes out of the house and shoots Lil Jeff. And just like that, the most infamous instigator from the Bloodhounds was gone. Even after his death, Jeff's legacy lived on through his music and the chaos he left behind. Trap City Rob, on the other hand, has stayed alive, but his name will forever be tied to one of the deadliest back and forths in Chicago drill history. Lil Durk and Quando Rondo's beef wasn't personal at first, but after King Von was killed, everything changed. What started as a war between King Von and NBA Youngboy quickly spiraled into something much bigger, dragging in Durk and making Quando one of the most hunted rappers in the game. Now, one is facing life in prison, and the other is behind bars, all because of a beef that never should have been theirs to begin with. Quando Rondo came up in Savannah, Georgia, repping the rolling 60s neighborhood Crips. He was a wild kid who grew up in the trenches, but eventually turned to rap as his way out. His 2017 breakout track, I Remember, got him noticed, and when Lil Baby hopped on the remix, his career started taking off. At the time, Lil Durk had already been in the game for years, leading the OTF movement and making a name as one of Chicago's most respected rappers. Quando was on his way up, and Durk saw potential in him. Instead of charging him for a feature, Durk gave him a verse for free on the track Other Side, even calling him a Lil Boss in the song. Quando and Durk were cool, and Quando was even tight with King Von at one point. Quando used to diss Von's enemies from 63rd, proving his loyalty. But things changed when NBA Youngboy and King Von started beefing. King Von was one of the most feared rappers in drill, but he was also one of the most reckless. He went at NBA Youngboy first, calling him a liar in his lyrics, and then took it a step further, posting pictures of himself with Youngboy's baby mama, Jania. That was all it took. Youngboy responded by trolling Von, saying he'd make sure his son slept with Von's daughter. The disrespect was now personal. Their crews started getting involved, and because Quando Rondo was Youngboy's closest affiliate, he was forced to pick a side. Quando chose Youngboy, and just like that, the beef with Lil Durk and OTF started. By 2020, the tension between OTF and NBA was boiling over, and on November 6, 2020, things finally exploded. That night, King Von and his crew ran into Quando Rondo outside a club in Atlanta. Von, who was known for handling his problems personally, walked right up to Quando and swung on him. The fight didn't last long. Seconds later, Quando's homie, Lil Tim, pulled out a gun and shot Von multiple times, killing him on the spot. Quando later tried to say he didn't even know it was King Von at first, and that the whole thing was just self-defense. But by then, it didn't matter. Von was dead, and Lil Durk wanted revenge. After Von's death, Durk allegedly put a price on Quando's head, and within months, Quando barely escaped 2 attempts on his life. The first happened in May 2021, when Quando was performing at a show in Georgia. After the event, his crew was shot at, and one of his homies got hit in the hand. Right after, Durk dropped Still Runnin' with Lil Baby and Meek Mill, where he sent a message that left no doubts. Must be out of your mind. You think we ain't spinning for bro? We spinning for sure. At that point, it was clear. This wasn't just music anymore. This was war. Quando wasn't backing down either. Right after Von's death, he dropped End of Story, rapping, "Blood on your brother on the ground, go pick your mans up." Quando was claiming self-defense, but at the same time, he was openly mocking Von's death, which only made the beef more serious. Over the next year, things only got worse. In August 2022, Quando was in Los Angeles with his cousin Lil Pab when shooters caught them lacking at a gas station. The gunman hopped out and unloaded on Quando's car, Lil Pab right in front of him. Quando survived, but the war had taken its toll. After Lil Pab's, Quando dropped his flag, saying he was done with gang life, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. Meanwhile, Lil Durk never stopped sending shots. But by 2024, the war took a shocking turn. Lil Durk was arrested for allegedly putting a hit on Quando Rondo. Durk had already been under investigation for ordering the 2022 hit on a GD named Stefan Mack, which was allegedly retaliation for his brother D Thang's murder. When Quando almost got taken out in LA, police started connecting the dots. With thousands of pages of evidence and phone records linking OTF affiliates to multiple shootings, the feds moved in, arresting Durk before he could flee the country. Now, Lil Durk is facing life in prison, while Quando is locked up on a case, serving a 33-month sentence. The craziest part? Durk and Quando never really had personal issues. This war started between Von and Youngboy, but Quando and Durk took it to another level. Von's death changed everything, and because of it, both rappers ended up throwing their lives away. One might never come home, and the other will always have a target on his back. NBA Youngboy and G-Money's beef wasn't just about music. It was about betrayal, respect, and bloodshed. They started out as brothers in TBG, Top Boy Gorilla, running the streets of Baton Rouge together. But over time, jealousy, street politics, and a personal betrayal turned them into sworn enemies, leading to one of the most violent feuds in Louisiana rap history. And when G-Money was in 2017, it wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. NBA Youngboy came up in the 38th Street neighborhood of Baton Rouge, originally rolling with TBG. Back then, G-Money was the hottest rapper in the city, and Youngboy looked up to him as a big brother. But that relationship didn't last. Youngboy started blowing up in early 2017, and instead of bringing Youngboy into the spotlight, TBG started distancing themselves from him. The biggest betrayal came from G-Money himself when Youngboy found out G had been sleeping with his older sister. G-Money wasn't just disrespecting Youngboy in private. He went on Say Cheese TV and laughed about it, making it a public humiliation. Right after the interview, Youngboy came home from a 2016 attempted case that nearly sent him away for a decade. But instead of slowing down, he got straight to terrorizing the city. The music beef turned deadly. Youngboy responded on August 3rd, 2017, when he dropped his album AI Youngboy and sent his first public shot at G-Money. G-Money didn't back down. 1 month later, he dropped the most disrespectful diss track of his career, Industry. They ain't in the streets. If you looking for me, bitch, I'm in the streets. G made it clear. Youngboy wasn't built like him. At this point, the beef wasn't just about music. It was about proving who ran Baton Rouge. After Industry dropped, the tension exploded. Youngboy and G-Money started going back and forth on Instagram, throwing threats at each other and daring the other side to slide. G responded 2 days later, going even harder, calling Youngboy a fake gangster and claiming TBG was always his muscle. That same night, he went to the studio to record another diss track against Youngboy. But before the song could drop, he was gone. September 10th, 2017, the night everything changed. It was just past midnight when G-Money and his crew finished their studio session. He walked outside, looking down at his phone, completely unaware that a car was already parked outside, waiting for him. Seconds later, shots rang out. G-Money was hit 18 times. Whoever did it wanted him gone for good. The news broke the next morning. Baton Rouge police are looking into a deadly shooting that claimed the life of local rapper Garrett Burton, known as G-Money. It wasn't just a random shooting. This was an execution. Youngboy wasted no time sending shots back. The disrespect didn't stop. Youngboy kept clowning G-Money after his making TBG's hatred for him even worse. Retaliation came fast. Fredo Bang, G-Money's best friend, was supposed to come home from jail that same day. Instead, police refused to release him, saying they were keeping him locked up for his own safety. Fredo later revealed in an interview, "They told me if I came home, I was either gonna get killed or retaliate, so they kept me in jail a few extra months." While Fredo was locked up, TBG's young hitter Lit Yoshi stepped up. Yoshi was already a savage, but after G-Money's death, he declared war on Youngboy's camp. Between 2018 and 2020, police say Yoshi was involved in at least 7 shootings, all targeting NBA and BBG members. The most infamous moment came in 2019, when Youngboy's crew was shot at in Miami outside Rolling Loud. Police believe Lit Yoshi was one of the shooters. Youngboy survived, but his girlfriend was hit. From that point on, the NBA versus TBG war was unstoppable. In 2020, Yoshi was arrested for multiple attempted murders. In 2021, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison for a shooting targeting BBG Baby Joe, one of Youngboy's closest homies. Youngboy never stopped dissing G-Money. He made songs, Instagram posts, and videos mocking TBG, while Fredo and Yoshi kept sending shots back. Even today, the war between NBA and TBG isn't over. Bodies have been dropped, entire crews have been wiped out, and Youngboy is still sending disses. Years later, G-Money is gone, but his name still carries weight in Baton Rouge. And as long as NBA Youngboy and Fredo Bang are breathing, this war will never end. And in Jacksonville, 2 names stand above the rest when it comes to war: Youngin Ace and Julio Fulio. What started as a misunderstanding quickly escalated into one of the deadliest feuds in hip-hop history, with bodies dropping, shootouts, and diss tracks turning into street indictments. This isn't just rap beef, this is real life. Youngin Ace, born Keonta Bullard, wasn't originally from Jacksonville. He was born in Chicago. But after moving around with his 11 brothers, his family eventually settled in Duval County, Florida. Growing up without a father, Ace was raised by his single mother while his uncle served as his father figure. But when Ace was 14, his uncle was killed, and everything changed. Instead of school, he turned to the streets, and he quickly built a reputation in Jacksonville. But he also had a passion for music, and in 2014, he started dropping tracks. At the same time, on the other side of Jacksonville, Charles Julio Fulio Jones was growing up in a life just as rough. Fulio dropped out of school in 9th grade and jumped into the streets full-time. He wanted to rap, but he had no money for studio time, so he hustled his way up. By 2015, Fulio started making waves with tracks like Coming Up, and his career was taking off. That's when the streets took over. Both Ace and Fulio weren't just rappers. They were affiliated. Ace repped ATK, Ace's top killers. Fulio repped KTA, killed them all, and Jacksonville wasn't big enough for both of them. Their beef started in 2017, not over music, but over blood. Fulio's cousin Zion Brown was murdered inside his home in the middle of the night. The man arrested for the murder, DeAndre Thomas, an affiliate of Youngboy Ace. With that, the war was set in stone. A year later, in June 2018, Ace was out celebrating a birthday party with his brother and two friends when a car pulled up and bullets started flying. Ace was hit 8 times, but miraculously survived. His brother and two best friends weren't as lucky. The quadruple homicide made national headlines, and while Ace was still recovering in the hospital, Fulio and KTA mocked the deaths on social media. Ace responded by tattooing his brother and friends across his stomach and vowing revenge. By 2019, the war was uncontrollable. 1 month later, Fulio's homie Bibi Osama was gunned down. Fulio responded with the disrespectful diss track Bibi's Story, mocking Bibi's murder while KTA celebrated on social media. Queso wasted no time, dropping a response track and mocking Bibi's death in return. The cycle continued. Ace was targeted in a hotel shooting in Georgia, losing another homie. Fulio was shot at multiple times, even taking a bullet to the head. And later, his girlfriend was targeted. By 2020, Jacksonville was a war zone. That's when things went viral. Youngboy Ace, Spinner Benz, Fast Money Goon, and Whopper with the Chopper dropped Who I Smoke. The track sampled Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles and turned it into one of the most disrespectful diss songs ever made. Ace and his crew mocked multiple KTA members, including Bibi, Lil 9, and Techie. The song went viral, hitting millions of views in days and turning the Jacksonville war into mainstream entertainment. But Fulio wasn't about to let it slide. 1 month later, he dropped And I See You. Instead of a fun parody, Fulio took it to another level. He stood in a cemetery, right in front of the gravestones of Ace's brother and two best friends. It was one of the most ruthless diss tracks in history. Both Ace and Fulio blew up from the beef, but they refused to let it go. Even as they gained millions of fans, the violence didn't stop. A TK and KTA kept sending shots. The beef made Jacksonville rap famous, but it also made the city unlivable. And to this day, both crews are still active. Youngboy Ace and Julio Fulio didn't just bring Jacksonville drill to the world, they made it one of the deadliest rap wars of all time. Hot Boy and Glock 9 went from being two of Orlando's most promising young rappers to sworn enemies, turning their city into a war zone. They started off as friends, even making music together. But jealousy and gang affiliations turned them into bitter rivals. What began as a rap beef quickly escalated into real-life shootouts, both sides taking heavy losses. Hot Boy, born Javari Walker, grew up on the west side of Orlando and started rapping at just 7 years old. Inspired by artists like Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, his mother helped him release music on YouTube and SoundCloud. Even though he was chasing music, he was still deep in the streets, affiliated with the gang 438. At the same time, Glock 9, whose real name is Jaquavius Smith, was making his own come-up in Orlando. Like Hot Boy, he started rapping young, but his legal troubles kept stacking up. He had been arrested 12 times before turning 18, and when he was just 15, he was booked for shooting another teenager. The incident was ruled an accident, but he was still charged with aggravated battery and unlawful discharge of a firearm. Despite his constant run-ins with the law, Glock 9 was musically gifted. He dropped 3 mixtapes in 2018, caught the attention of Cash Money Records, and signed a deal. He was on the rise, and Orlando had 2 buzzing rappers making waves. At first, they were cool, and even dropped a track together in 2018. But as Hot Boy's career started taking off, Glock 9 allegedly started feeling some type of way. The jealousy turned into subliminal shots on social media, and soon their respective gangs, Hot Boy's 438 and Glock 9's AFNF, were at war. The beef took its first major casualty in April 2020, when 438 affiliate Wolf Luther King Luma was shot and at a house party by AFNF member Demetrius Cox. Less than 2 weeks later, during Luma's memorial, AFNF allegedly pulled up and shot into the crowd, killing high school football star Dexter Rentz. Rentz had no gang ties. He was just friends with Hot Boy and Luma. The back and forth didn't stop there. A few days later, Glock 9's car was shot up while parked outside of a house. He wasn't there when it happened, but police later found out he was allegedly on his way to shoot up another rapper's house. Glock 9 and his affiliates let off over 100 rounds into Reese's home, not realizing that Kudum Reese wasn't even there. His mother and sister, however, were, and they later identified Glock 9 as one of the shooters. The entire city of Orlando was under siege. Operation X-Force was launched to take down both gangs, using wiretaps and informants to build a case. But before the feds could make their move, the bodies kept dropping. In October 2020, Glock 9 was ambushed outside a mall in Orlando. Two men in a white BMW circled the parking lot, waiting for him to come outside. When he did, they pulled up and started shooting. Glock 9 and his crew ducked for cover while bystanders ran in panic. No one was hit, but the shooting led to Glock 9 getting arrested on a weapons charge. When the police tested his gun, they found out it had been used in multiple shootings. That was the final straw for the authorities. Operation X-Force ramped up, and in 2021, they launched a massive RICO case, arresting 34 suspects from both 438 and AFNF. Hot Boy and Glock 9 had the talent to make it out, but they let the streets pull them back in. Instead of becoming Orlando's next rap stars, they turned their city into a war zone.